Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Two Stewards Show. My name's Mark. I'm here with
Brent. I think if you made it to this episode, congratulations.
Well, you never know. People have short attention spans these days, right? Either way, welcome back, folks. We've been talking about money, and
You got a bit of a cold there, Mark.
yes, I certainly do, sir.
I do as well.
Raspy
I've been
today.
coughing the whole time. So
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, money. Our money system, how our money system is corrupted. There's a problem. And I always want to take a flight of fancy this episode.
well, we talked about hyperinflation, right?
Yeah.
And what happens when we have a corrupt money and it goes off the rails? And
Yeah, that's sort of the worst case Ontario.
yeah.
Hyperinflation as the
yeah.
result of a bad money system, right?
Yeah.
So now we want to, think about like what would a world look like if we had perfect money,
That's a
or
bit
at least
of a
really
stretch,
good
isn't it?
money. Yeah, it's a bit of a stretch. I mean, it's like what does heaven look like,
Yeah.
right? Or what should heaven be like, right? So we don't really know, but we're going to take a stab at a world with perfect money.
Or at least good money.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is perfect in this world, but what would a world in which we had good money look like?
And we're going to do this super briefly, right?
Oh, yes, yeah, we
only
promise.
we only got a few points, and we're going to gloss over a lot of this and get right to the point, and then we'll be done.
Yep, no superfluous joking or anything. We promise. Okay, Brent, what what would a world with good, sound money look like, do you think?
Well, I kind of want to start where we left off. I don't know if you're okay with this, but
No.
we went through in the last couple episodes about the properties of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
The characteristics of money. And I think if you want to look at what would perfect money be, you kind of got to look at each one of those properties and say, okay, well, what if we could find something that exhibited these properties, I don't say in perfection, but really, really, really well, right?
Yeah.
And what would that do to our society, our world, our lifestyles, our government, our healthcare, whatever, all these different aspects
Right.
of society. So I think before we get to those things, we want to talk about maybe the properties. Does that make sense as a framework for getting into this?
Yeah, I think so. Because we have talked about gold as a reasonably sound money, and then we actually have historical examples that we can or that we have cited as well, right? As far as if we had or when they used gold as money, this is the kind of thing that happened, that existed. But yeah, I think going through the properties of money would be good. But one important thing for me to note,
Yeah.
excuse me, is that maybe we'll have to get okay. So this is one of the characteristics, I guess, and we'll get into it. But in a world with sound money, the government would not be able to print that money because they wouldn't have access, they wouldn't control it. So you really got to think about like what would a world look like where a government could not run a deficit because they couldn't just print money.
Yeah.
And that would extend to banks as well.
Or
banks,
if they did run a deficit, they would go bankrupt.
Yeah, that's right. They would run out of money.
The consequences
Halfway through
of
the
their
year.
printing would hit them like, a slap in the face in a year.
Yeah, or before before the year was up.
Yeah.
But then also our banking system would be vastly different because banks would also not have the ability to print money. So then, in real estate, how we look at things, right? A lot of real estate investors depend on the ability to get a mortgage.
Yeah.
So to buy something without actually having all that money. So that would vanish as well. So it'd be very interesting. But you're right. Let's go into the properties of
The first one on our
properties of money.
list. The first one on our list is store of value. So if you think of something, remember these are characteristics of what makes for good money. So good money would have to be a good store of value, meaning like whatever I hold as money is going to be valuable for years and years and years to come. And that's what we talked about gold, how, relatively speaking to other things, when you hold gold, you can expect it not to deteriorate. So it's a good store of value in that sense. But yeah, if something's a perfect store of value, it's something that you can really rely upon, right? Like, that kind of, I don't want to say it gives you a sense of security. This is going to be an interesting episode, Mark.
That's what you think.
Well, it will give you a little bit of a sense of security about, you go to work, you earn your money, and then that money will still maintain its value for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
I guess if we say perfect, it would be indefinite, right? But I could give this money to my kids, and it would still have the same value when I give it to them and they give it to their kids or whatever, right? So you kind of in that world, you're kind of incentivized to work hard to earn this money,
Yeah.
and then just keep it, I guess, right? Like you wouldn't necessarily want to get rid of it unless you needed to spend it on something, but like there wouldn't be an incentive to go, hey, like I gotta go spend this because it's losing value. It's like, no, it's a good store of value. It's going to maintain its value for a long time. If I spend 10% or if I give 10% and I spend 20% or whatever, and I keep the remaining, it will just keep its value.
Yeah, and that's interesting because you read about people who will hoard money or store money under their mattress or whatever it is, save up this, or people doing renos, they'll find like wads of money in the wall or whatever.
I
right?
never did that yet, but
well, keep looking. You got to do full gut renos. That's the key, right? You can't just do lipstick.
It's like a lottery. You buy the house, you do a full gut reno, and there goes a couple $100,000. But you might find
$500.
Yeah.
No, but the point is when you have this money that somebody has saved for like 30, 40, 50 years, it has lost most of its value, right?
Yeah.
So it might be $1,000 you find in the wall or something, right?
Yeah.
But that's, what can you buy with $1,000 today? You can't buy a car. You can't buy, you might be able to buy a car.
You wouldn't want the car then.
No, you can buy a really nice bicycle.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Not even a really, really nice one. But
No, just a nice.
Decent, yeah.
Whereas
tire,
40, 50 years ago, that money would have gone a lot further. So the act of saving that money was just self-defeating.
Yeah.
Right? Was not worth it. So, if your grandpa saved up money and then had it sitting in either in cash or in the bank, in a low interest bearing account, same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's lost most of its value.
Yeah.
Because inflation just eats and eats away at it. So that's something that like nobody that's alive now would have any real experience with.
Yeah, they're not actually taking that action, right? And I think that loops back to like what would perfect money look like. Well, you would kind of be incentivized to save, right?
Yeah.
Because it actually does store value. Whereas, like you mentioned, no one in our lifetime is kind of doing this because like you'd be foolish to take something that's not a good store of value and store it.
Yeah, because we've had inflation just as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
For our lifetimes.
Yeah, it's unavoidable.
In the lifetimes of our parents and grandparents, right? We just take it for granted. That's what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, you read about, the people hoarding or having a chest of gold or hiding that gold coin under the mat. And then, I don't know, the stories I like to read, right? About the Middle
I'm going to be
Ages.
going to look under every single mat I can find.
It's got to be in a little cottage in rural Europe somewhere.
Yeah.
Right, but where the father gives a handful of coins, right, and that represents his life savings, but they didn't deteriorate. They're actually worth something. He worked for 20, 30, 40 years to save this money up, and it held its value.
Yeah. Well, that's the example I've heard before where like 1 ounce of gold, a couple hundred years ago, you used to be able to buy a nicely tailored suit.
That's right.
And now 1 ounce of gold will still buy you a nicely tailored suit. So
Exactly.
that's kind of the purchasing power or the store of value of that money has not deteriorated against the goods because you're still able to get the same like services. Maybe the quality of the fabrics or whatever was better or worse or whatever, and the technology that they used to make it. But Yeah. So that's the first property. We said we're going to do these quick, Mark.
Oh, well.
Divisible. So we haven't even thought of these. I don't know. Maybe you did, but I haven't thought of these properties in relation to perfect money yet. So we're going to go through this live. We're trying to figure this out. So what would the property money being divisible, how would that relate to, or what would that look like if it was perfect?
Well, I mean, our money now is, I would say, infinitely divisible, right? The Canadian dollar.
Into I would think about this like in the currency form, like where we have cash and coins. It's kind of denominations, right? It's like you got 50, 100, you got 20, like it's big chunks.
And now you got nickels as the smallest, physical denomination, because we got
so
rid
it
of
is
the penny.
divisible, but it's not like, you know, in terms of making a very, very, very accurate transaction on a really small thing, like it would be tough to.
Well, so you can do that digitally,
yeah,
right? Which I think is an advantage.
Yeah,
that you can actually make these micro excuse me, micro transactions for fractions of a penny if you had to.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably a positive
with the
aspect.
money that we have now.
With the money that we have now, but it
has to be done in the digital world, like gold. So with gold, you could divide things. If you had a gold coin, you could always melt it down and come up with a fraction.
But that's a huge process, right? It's not like you can just instantly do that now. The issue now would be the payment rails that we use and the costs associated with those, right? Where it's often not practical.
What do you mean by the payment rails? Sorry, we're both coughing and hacking.
We'll edit that out in post, right, kid? You'll have the cough search,
shaking his head over
the AI cough searcher.
Yeah,
this has got to be a thing. If not, we should invent it.
Yeah, we should patent it.
So just the ways that we use to transact.
Yeah,
right. Everything costs money. If you want to pay for a bill using a credit card, there's going to be like a 3% fee.
Using the Visa payment rails, to speak. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm sending value along these rails.
Yep.
Okay.
Because I've been doing some U.S. and Canadian transactions lately, right? And if you use the banks, you get absolutely hosed.
Yeah.
Like the exchange rate is terrible.
Yeah.
And then all the fees that they charge, right? So there are alternative.
There's the get out of bed and come to work fee, and then I got to put my clothes on and talk to you fee.
So I've been using other services. Right. Shout out to wise.com if anybody wants to check that out. But you can have a U.S. account and a Canadian account and send money between the two or to other people via either wire or e-transfer for like fractions of what it costs to do through the bank. Right. So this is an improvement.
Yeah.
Right. But it's still, percentage wise, I don't know what it would be, like 0.5% or something of transaction value. Right. So if you were going to do a very small transaction with a small amount, it's not practical right now because of the fees that we would be charged.
Yeah, I think that's important to point out, right? Because if you had a very, very large transaction, like in your case, I think you're buying a house, so it might be a significant sum of money, let's say, right? Or you can even scale that up to, international level where governments are sending money, central banks are sending money. Like the transaction cost to do that is like a tiny fraction of the overall value that's being sent.
Yeah.
But when you scale down the transaction to like, I just want to send $1 somewhere.
Yeah, you can't.
You can't because it basically costs more than that to send the dollar.
When you think of people.
So while the money is divisible into very, very small very, very small amounts. Yeah. Right. It's not easy to send, or it's not practical to send because you can't send it for less than
like a wire
transaction
transfer
cost eats up what you're sending.
Say a wire transfer is $100. I don't remember exactly, but something like that, right? So it's not practical to send $200 somewhere via wire because
or $102 or something.
Exactly. And so for people who are using remittances, like someone who comes to Canada, works, and then sends money home, they got to wait for a while. They can't just send like $20.
Yeah.
Right? Like there are ways now, but using fiat currencies, you can't just send $20 via Western Union because the fees would kill you, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think we've talked about some of that, but we're getting a little bit off track here.
Yeah.
But suffice it to say, having a digitally divisible currency I think is optimal, as opposed to a physically divisible currency.
Yeah, to look at gold, and you said melting it down is impractical. Like in many ways it is, right? Anybody has something that can melt gold sitting in their back pocket. And gold doesn't translate to the digital world, because nowadays everybody has their money on their phone, and you just go back to gold and you got this pile of gold. It's like, hey, right, put the gold in the iPhone.
Well,
and send it to Mark.
Peter Schiff would argue with you, right? He'd say, no, you just start a coin based on gold.
Right.
And it's like, okay,
you hold the gold in a central bank, or you hold it in Peter Schiff's house.
There's the issue of trust, right? Like, who determines actually that much? And this goes back to central banking again, like all over again, right? Where they're like, yep, we're going to hold gold. And then and this is before the digital age.
Yeah.
And then they still manage to screw that up with fractional reserve banking by issuing more debit notes or receipts than there was actual gold. So,
all right. So I
don't think that's going to work, Peter Schiff.
We quickly made it through the first two. All right. The next one is durable.
I wouldn't say quickly, Brent.
But durable is also very similar to store of value. So I think we might be able to skip that one unless you have something really important to say. As you always do.
As I always think I do, Brent.
Because durability, I think that is really highlighted when it comes to physical monies, right? Like if you talk about gold or like the paper money, something like that, durability, especially when you go back in history, and we talked about some of the historical objects or artifacts that were used as money, right? It wasn't just always metal like gold and silver, but it was also like these rhinestones or salt or cattle or seashells or whatever. So like those have all varying degrees of durability, and I think we've come through a lot of history, and we've settled on these metals that are very, very, very durable. But when we jump into, like today, we jump into the digital world, durability is maybe a bit of a funny question, right? Because like if you think about durable, that's almost something physical, right? And how do we say something's durable in the digital world? Like it's hard to say.
Well, our currency now is infinitely durable, so long as we have access to the internet or to a digital platform, right? So if we ever
and the guy doesn't push the delete button. Well, I'm just thinking, like you can destroy gold, but it's difficult, right? Like, but with digital currencies, like I feel like you could just push delete and it's gone.
So that's an issue of control, I guess, right? The government could delete that credit, or the bank could, I guess, for that matter. And it would be gone. So basically you need a ledger.
Yeah.
So maybe this is a different thing.
Oh.
You need ideally you need a publicly available ledger that is not controlled
right now,
by
the
one
banks,
person.
Like if you have $100 at the bank, that's just an entry on their ledger, right? It's no longer they have gold in a vault or whatever. All that stuff is gone, right? And you physically aren't holding any money, so you don't have any cash. It's just a note on your phone that says like $100 at your bank, right? So you are essentially just trusting them to maintain that balance in your account, right? Like they could. I actually got a notification from my bank like a couple months back so you have a line of credit, right? And they're just sending us a note saying we're going to scale back the balance on your line of credit, right, as over the next so many months at a certain rate. And like, I've had this line of credit for like 5 years, and we've used it, and like we keep paying it down or whatever, and so there's nothing there that they can point to that's an issue per se, but they've just determined that, I think it's because interest rates go up, right? That
a lot of banks have been doing this.
We're gonna say, you know what, like this guy or a lot of people are over leveraged. We're going to actually tone back the amount of money that they can borrow. And we're going to do that gradually over time. But it's their decision, right? Like they're essentially deleting my access to money.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that maybe in the digital world is not not necessarily lends itself to like durable money. But if you had perfectly durable money,
So I
they
guess
wouldn't be able to
in
push
the digital
that delete button. I wouldn't
world,
get that letter in the mail.
Yeah, durable money means not centrally controlled. I think
In the digital world.
in the digital world.
Okay. So what do you mean by that?
Well, where a bank can't just push a button
Right.
and say this money no longer, because remember in banking it's backwards, right? Deposits are actually liabilities
For the bank.
for the bank, and loans are assets, right? Whereas in that, I always had such a hard time understanding that with accounting and stuff too, right? Like, no, an asset is like,
A good thing. Yeah.
yeah, a good thing. If I have money, that's an asset. That's good, right? But
Yeah.
not so in banking because of how that works. So, yeah, I forget the what's the point we're discussing? Oh, durability.
Yeah.
And so with a bank, they have a different view on things, right? And to your point about the line of credit, right? They have certain rules and formulas they have to follow as far as like, as much as we make it sound like they just have no rules, they do have some rules. And they might say like, okay, we have X amount of outstanding lines of credit.
Yeah.
And these people are over leveraged. That means for the people that haven't used it yet,
Yeah.
we have to
tone it
down in order to stay within our parameters.
Yeah.
And that's what they've been doing for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Is restricting access to credit to make their own numbers come back in line.
Yeah.
But that's, we've talked about central bank digital currencies. And I think it's inevitable we're going to go down this
about
route.
it? I thought we like yelled about it and kind of fought each other.
Yeah. Talk is charitable description. But
Were you trying to defend the government on that?
no, Brent, I wasn't. That was hypothetical.
Okay.
Twisting my words against me. But yeah, with the central bank digital currency or CBDC,
Yeah.
there's much more power for the government to add or delete money,
Right.
right? Because again, they can just print money out
Yeah.
of thin air, so they could give Brent a credit and they could give Mark a debit
Right.
if it was the money that they controlled
Yeah.
already, right? So if it was like your baby bonus or whatever else, right? They could start saying,
So basically-
here's this money. But use it by X date
Right.
if they want to encourage spending in the economy. So you have a 6-month credit here. And if you
Yeah.
don't use it, it expires. So they're deleting
So
that money.
basically what you're saying is like when we had physical money, durability was, I think that's pretty easy for people to understand. Like it's based on the physical properties of the money. But now in the digital world,
Well, and someone would have to physically destroy it. And
Yeah.
typically that would be the owner
yeah.
of the money would have to destroy it. So you could burn your banknotes.
Yeah.
Destroying
they're
your
gone.
gold would be, because you can't really destroy gold, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can blow it up and make it into tiny
Yeah.
pieces, which
Shavings
is essentially,
and spread them on the water and make people drink it, kind of thing.
yes.
Like Moses did.
Is that what he was doing? Was it quantitative tightening, really?
Yeah, quantitative tightening. That was
There's a lot of firsts for Moses.
yeah. We should bring him back. I don't know. Well, no. What I was saying is like, so what you're saying in digital money now, where we are, because really most money is digital. We're moving towards and with, like as we go towards CBDCs and all this stuff,
Yeah.
we're moving towards less and less durable money, essentially,
Yes.
right? Because
Yeah. That's a very good point, actually.
like right now, they don't have the same controls they might have if they had a CBDC where they could actually, like you said, give time limits on how much like time you have to spend this money or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
okay.
because right now, if I want to destroy money,
I mean, you look like you could.
you got to squeeze those protons. I don't know.
Molecules?
Molecules.
I don't know.
No, if I want to destroy money, I pay back a loan.
Right.
Right? Which is like just a really perverse way of thinking about money. But that's how it works if I
Yeah.
want to destroy it, right?
So how does the government do this again? Like they extinguish debt or they quantitative tightening.
Yeah, and For the record, I think we must be the first podcast to ever make a joke about Moses and quantitative tightening. So I don't know if we can contact Guinness Book of Records or something, but anyways, yeah. So yeah, because of the digital age that we're in, we got to think about some of these things a little bit differently, and so the durability of money, we have to approach that differently, right? If we ever go back into a dark age, and there's an apocalypse and massive electromagnetic pulse bombs, and all electronics are destroyed.
Yeah.
Okay, then we'll have to. I don't know. We'll have to think of a different way to do our podcast. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Just sit on top of a rock and yell.
Yeah. Oh, all right. So we did the first three. Now uniform. So uniform money.
I do not wish to wear a uniform, Brent.
No. Well, we're going to a world where everybody's got to wear a uniform.
Okay.
And be uniform. We're all going to be the same. We're all going to be equal. Is it equal opportunity or equal outcome? Is that the whole argument?
Oh, let's not go down that road.
Let's not go down that road. Okay, so uniform when it comes to money.
Yes.
We described that in the past as this. So every unit would have the same properties.
Yeah.
So is this a big issue today? I guess before we look at what would perfect money be. Like,
so I think
how much of an issue is the?
I think in the digital world, not really.
Yeah, because every unit is the same as every other one.
Yeah.
It's not like there's more value ascribed to like the decimal place on my bank account versus yours. It's like you better get on, Tangerine versus Simply.
So there is one way in which that is not true, right? And when we talk about fiat currencies and just the sheer number of them, so one base unit of Canadian currency, which is the dollar, is not the same as one base unit of Indian currency, the rupee.
Yeah.
Because they have different values.
Yeah.
And so I guess in that way you could say they are not uniform. And that's kind of important because when you're talking international trade and what I was talking about, sending money back and forth, that creates friction.
Yeah, a global
marketplace. Even though it's digital, and I'm just like sending numbers from Canada to India, somebody's still a bank is still taking a cut of that.
Yeah, we got to start a bank.
For whatever reason.
We got to start a bank, do exchange, do all this stuff, make loans.
Well, when you think about it, it's kind of ridiculous that there has to be a middleman, like to send digital currency from one country to another.
Yeah, like I can send an email and...
Yeah.
Is there a middleman when there's an email?
Gmail, yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's not a good example. But...
Well, actually, sorry, it's the NSA because they're looking at everybody's email.
Okay.
So we don't have uniformity of currency. We have it within countries.
Yeah.
So within, and like I referenced before, right? I think 160 different fiat currencies.
Yeah. So that kind of jumps into the next one, which is fungible, right? I think that they kind of go hand in hand, uniform and fungible, because fungible is kind of like they're mutually interchangeable, right?
Yeah.
And a unit within, like you said, Canadian currency or U.S. currency or whatever, like those are pretty much, they're the same value. So they're fungible in that sense. But on a global scale, you're making the argument that we have all these like 160 different fiat currencies and none of them are the same value. So on a global scale, there is not really any uniformity or fungibility in our money.
No, and that's, I'm certainly not...
like an ounce of gold is still an ounce of gold, right? No matter where you are in the world.
Yes.
And that might be interesting to talk about because like the BRICS nations, like Russia, India, China, whatever, those, they're talking about different, like going off the US dollar and looking at different options for basing their currency, right? And I think gold is a big discussion point. And gold is something that a lot of countries gravitate toward as well, just because it has the same value in every country, right?
Yeah. Does it? I mean, yeah.
Like this is where it gets complicated because it's valued in the local currency, and that's different everywhere. So
well, it is, and also, like in Canada, for example, we don't have any gold.
Right.
Do we value it the same? Like, on the open market we would, but the government probably doesn't, just because they don't have any.
We don't have any?
No.
Yeah, see, that's crazy.
Yeah. for years, these other countries, like especially the BRICS countries, have been stockpiling gold.
Yeah, but we have lots of Canadian dollars.
Oh, yeah, we have an
And we can
infinite
make
amount.
more of them. Man,
I
we're
mean,
smart.
Yeah, if we worked, if we had a greater emphasis on resource extraction, it wouldn't matter because
Yeah.
we would still have something physical that we could use to back up our
Yeah.
dollar, but we don't for whatever reason. So, yeah, the interesting Argentina, I think, is going to peg to the U.S. dollar.
Is it okay
So
with the new president? or whatever?
Yeah.
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 I don't know his name. I forget his name.
Javier Milei,
Malay. Okay.
or Mr. Sideburns, as I like to call him.
Sideburns. Yeah. Really intense looking guy. All right. Next property, Mark. Before we go on more tangents, portable. So. We describe. Okay, we're going over all the same stuff, but this is like we have a whole
Well-
list of things to talk about.
Well, so
But let's.
the
This is important, folks.
Well, the difference is we're kind of switching between the physical and the digital.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
And once you go from physical to digital, a lot of these things are maybe not moot points, but
it's a totally different.
It's
It's
a
a paradigm shift, right?
yeah, absolutely.
So portability, when you think about in the past, gold, like when we talked about money, like the rye stones, right, where
Yeah.
they're these massive stones that they're not really portable, but the ledger, I guess, is it's like an oral ledger where people's
Yeah.
like, you own this stone, so the value can kind of transfer, but without the actual stone transferring. But that's really limited, right? Because like,
Yeah,
how do
that's
I
not-
trust? Like it works in a small scale, but when you start to scale up an economy, and you want to actually send value and have final settlement, where like I'm sending this value from me in this country to you in that country, and you've got the value, right? With like,
Yeah.
if you just send like an oral, hey, by the way, you now have the value.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I trust you. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked
But
about
I've
that,
got
right?
this big stone on my island over here.
It works. Yeah, it works on an island with one tribe or a few
Yeah.
different tribes, but beyond that, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And that's for the reasons that we've talked about when we're going through the properties of money. But there's a lot of people like gold bugs who say that we should be using gold as our money.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to highlight the differences between the physical and the digital.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, you brought up these countries
Yeah.
that want to maybe have a different currency and maybe have that based on gold.
Right.
Well, now they're going to have to do a mixture of the physical and the digital, right? They'll
Yeah.
have the physical asset, but again, it's not practical to transact with that.
Which is kind of reminiscent of the last like couple hundred years of history.
Yeah. Well, yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
I wonder what happens when
And we
try
know how that turns out, right? So, but that's why I think it's important to highlight both aspects of the properties of money.
Yeah.
So, yeah, portability. Yeah, gold is not, if you're settling large transactions between nations,
Yeah.
you can ship bullion between the two, right?
Yeah.
And, airport heists notwithstanding. Was it you who told me about that?
What?
Or was it my wife? No, there was a big heist at Pearson not that long ago.
No, it wasn't me.
$20 million worth of gold. Gonzo.
Really?
Yeah.
So not very durable.
No, it is very durable.
It was
Whoever's
stolen.
got it is like, man, this stuff's heavy, right? And this will last forever. But yeah, you can. It kind of highlights, right? You can do these mass transfers, but there's always a risk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're depending on other people.
How much? 20 million?
I think it was like $20 million worth of gold. Yeah.
Who flies $20 million of gold through Pearson?
It's surprising. There is a ton, more than a ton. There is a lot of gold that is still going back and forth
Right.
via air and whatever else. Yeah, more than you'd know. People are still transacting in it.
Yeah.
But that
Just those
that's
Spanish
the
galleons of old.
exactly. But there's still we talking about portability, right?
Yeah.
It's not super portable, and there's security risks.
Yeah.
Because when you're sending that large amount, if people know about it, and like certainly this
Wouldn't
must have
you
been
kind
an
of know
inside
about
job.
it if you go through the metal detector?
You're not going through the metal detector. No, but there's going to be people that know.
Yeah.
right? With a large amount, there is more temptation for someone who is trustworthy to become not trustworthy because $20 million, like split that a couple ways.
Yeah.
You know, I can
I'll
disappear.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
but in the digital world, portability, and we're kind of trying to hypothesize what like perfect money would look like. But I think what we're saying is with gold or with physical monies, there seems to be this limitation. Whereas when you get into the digital world, portability is kind of like we're still, with the current system, we're still trusting like our bank or our institution or a central bank or government or whatever. You're trusting somebody to kind of make the transaction happen, but any amount is portable across any jurisdiction, right? Provided that the recipient is in an area that's like, not, doesn't have any regulations against you sending this currency or something like that. Because we have a situation where we're trying to get, our tenant is trying to get money out of his home country, which is Syria.
Yeah.
Right. He's having a whale of a time, but like to try and get money out of the bank there and send it, well, like it should be just a click of a button.
Yeah.
Right? It's the authority that he has to go to is not allowing him to take any money out, and he can only physically take $10,000 out at a time.
Right.
But he's physically, if he goes to the country, he's going to be in jail. So it's like he could send his wife there or whatever, and they could do the transaction.
Yeah.
But so that's like maybe one just kind of example I've run into, but I'm sure there's lots of different countries around the world with different regulations. And as it's more, in the government's interest to kind of protect their currency, they put up these walls, right? They don't want money to leave Syria, for example, right? Like,
No.
because once it leaves, that it devalues everyone else's money, and the money's somewhere else, right? And that's like capital flight, like people leaving to go somewhere else. So on a digital world where we have like an institution that can control it, they'll put up these guards to say, look, like if you want to leave, you can, but we are going to tax you at like an exit tax, for example.
Yeah.
Right? You ever heard of that? Like,
Yeah. So again, that points to decentralization as a necessity for sound money.
right.
That nobody else can control what we do with it, right? And people will say, "Oh, well, that's just going to enable terrorism or people to do bad things." And it's like, yeah, I guess they could.
Yeah.
That's a possibility, but is that not the price of liberty?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? That people can choose whether or not to do good or bad things, right?
Yeah.
Because in your example, the government is now the arbiter of
What's
right and wrong.
Yeah.
And I don't know, to me, this sounds clearly like that's a case of they're making the wrong choice,
Right.
right?
All right. We nailed that one. We're almost done here.
You might think so.
Recognizable. Recognize a good money, perfect money should be perfectly recognizable. Next. All right.
Well, again, going back to the physical age, that was a necessity, right?
Yeah.
Where you had,
in order to facilitate trade
yeah,
quickly and efficiently, you need to be able to see quickly that this is the value it is, right?
yeah. It's made by like I can trust this because it has the image of Caesar on it, or it has
Yeah.
the mark of
Florence
Venice or whatever
Yeah.
on it. So yeah, I can trust this, and maybe I want to like kind of weigh it and bite it to make
Yeah.
sure someone's not
Knock it on
counterfeited
something.
it.
Isn't that the sound of it? Is where sound money came from? Like it was like hitting it, and then you could tell that it was sound.
I thought that was coconuts, but okay.
We're getting into fiat food later.
Okay. So yeah, recognizable. Is that as applicable in the digital age? Because it's just ones and zeros, right?
Yeah.
So probably not as applicable.
But you do want to be able to verify that what value you have is in fact value. And I would almost say to the layperson, once you go into the digital world, like there is a big element of trust again, right? Because you have like, it's your bank account says there's $100 in the account, but like, how do you know, right? Like,
$100 Canadian. So
Yeah.
that has to be a recognizable
Yeah.
thing as well,
Unit.
right? Unit, yeah.
all right.
Yeah,
next-
because if it's like $1 a do, can you trust that? Do you recognize what that actually is?
yeah, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, and then like if you go into these 160 other fiat currencies,
That's Australian,
How do you know?
by the way.
Okay. For our 2 Australian listeners. The next one here, difficult to counterfeit. Which means obviously, okay, well, what's the expression on inflation versus counterfeiting? Like counterfeiting is illegal inflation and inflation is legal counterfeiting.
Yeah.
The only difference there being the fact that
who's doing it?
one entity has the legal right to do it, and
So with physical money, and I mean the U.S. dollar would be probably the biggest example of this, right? The $20 or $100 bill is the most. I can't remember. One of them is the most popular counterfeit dollar because it's it's the most desirable, and the most uniformly recognizable and used.
Yeah.
My previous
it's like a
example,
target, right? It's a target for counterfeit because there's so many of them and everybody needs them.
Well, and everybody wants it. So my previous example of terrorism, like what finances terrorism? The U.S. dollar.
Yeah.
The physical U.S. dollar.
The cash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drug cartels, terrorists. That's what people use. Just pallets of U.S. cash. So difficult to counterfeit. So that's in the physical world, and we've talked about that we just talked about the gold coins and how you had to make sure, even though it had that mark on it, still make sure that it's legal tender, and issued by the person you think it was issued by. In the digital world, now you're talking about hacking, right?
Yeah.
Can a hacker break in and suddenly add a couple zeros to your bank account?
Or could a government do the same thing legally?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of make light about what's the difference between legal and illegal counterfeiting, but it's so true, especially when we talk about CBDCs.
I think maybe the biggest difference is just the recipients, right? Because if you have illegal inflation, like counterfeiting, the recipients of that money are maybe, like you said, terrorist organizations, drug cartels, whatever, or anything. And then in legal counterfeiting, which is inflation, like the recipients might be, people buying a house or corporations or whatever, government entities, people close to that source of money. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's the difference between the two.
Yeah. So in a digital, sorry,
you're not allowed to yawn on this podcast.
Right? I'm sure our listeners are.
It's getting late. It's getting late.
Lullabies by Mark and Brent.
Oh boy.
I would recommend listening to our podcast at regular speed.
Yeah. If you want to fall asleep.
Well, you, or if you have a child that, a baby that doesn't want to sleep, for example, just play this. They'll fall asleep. And they might learn something at the same time.
Yeah.
No, but on the counterfeit side, on the digital
it's like, Dad, let me out of the basement.
That joke never gets old. You want to make sure that it is not easily hackable, I guess, for lack of a better word, right? That it is super secure.
Have we seen hacks on like countries' currencies? Or do they cover them up pretty good, or they're not subject
there's
to
nothing
hacks?
I can think of right now, because like at some point you get caught, so you got to be able to move that money quickly a whole bunch of times before the originator or the person who the originator figures out, like,
I think
something's going
maybe
wrong.
some of the counterfeiting could come in with like these secondary networks like Visa card, right? People stealing your Visa card or like credit card or whatever, and then using that. And but in today's day and age, you have insurance and
to a certain extent. I mean, you've seen it in some cryptocurrencies where people will you could argue it's counterfeiting, right? They'll make a whole bunch and it's not valid.
Right.
So,
all right, next one, medium of exchange. I don't know. I think that's more of it's a property of money, but it is what money is. So,
I mean, that goes back to the, recognizable. Like, it has to be acceptable.
Yeah.
In order to be a good medium of exchange, it has to be accepted by both parties.
Yeah. So the guy who has it and the guy who's like the merchant who's selling merchandise for it.
The merchant of Venice.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
So, and not just by those two parties, but by other parties, so that if I know I'm getting something from you, I can exchange that with anybody else.
And it's universal.
It's universal.
So if we hypothesize here about the perfect money scenario,
Let's
and-
hypothesize, Brent.
And we're talking about the global economy and the fact that, like, you know, we're so interconnected and information's flying around everywhere. So maybe like an ideal situation would be to have money that is accepted in every jurisdiction, and is a medium for all goods and services.
Yeah.
Right? Because if like right now we're kind of in these silos, like 160 different silos, and money can flow around the world, but like if I got Canadian dollars, I know I'm good with my wallet and I can go anywhere in Canada and, like, you know, maybe not go back.
Get out of here, you English.
But no, I can be pretty confident that my money will have the same value throughout Canada. I go to the States. Okay, maybe there's places where they'll take Canadian dollars, but you know, less confidence. But if I go to like any other country, like my confidence level goes down. It's not a readily accepted medium of exchange. So we're kind of limited there with physical cash and stuff. But then you can start spending like your Visa payments.
Try that in reverse, right? Say you're coming from Nigeria and you want to like spend your Nigerian dollar. Like, good luck.
People will laugh.
Nowhere else, right? It's not like you got a U.S.
So you're talking about
dollar.
the strength of the currency versus a weaker currency, like something.
Well, not even the strength, but just recognizability. The Canadian dollar will take you so far. The U.S. like you'll figure it out. U.S. dollar, yeah, you can spend that in most places, right?
Yeah.
But beyond that, right? Like maybe the euro.
Yeah.
Is another one. And worst case, you go get it changed. But like, yeah, try bringing the naira.
Yeah. Or the yen
across borders, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
Nobody's
I don't even
gonna
know what that is, Mark.
Yeah.
Did you
Is
just
this
make that up?
actually a thing? I could have. See,
Yeah. See.
You'll have to Google it to see if it's
Yeah.
real.
It's not in my medium of exchange
Bag.
hot list. Yeah. So, but in the digital world, you can still, like, somebody from Africa with their digital whatever they are could send them to us, but there would be this exchange fee, right? And you
Yeah.
kind of touched on that earlier about the transaction cost and the exchange between currencies. So it's not really like currently there's not really a good universal medium of exchange, but that is an important thing. So now that we're done hypothesizing about it, let's go to
It's a big
the
word.
last and most important one, which is not et cetera this time. It's, it is scarce.
Okay.
So
Why does it have to be scarce, Brent?
and that kind of loops back to the first one about a store of value. But when we talked about physical monies being
Yep.
scarce, the scarcity of the money was kind of rooted in the physical ability. Like scarcity is the money supply. Like how much money is there and how quickly can we produce it or make it, right? With physical money, because it's physical, somebody can just go and make it, right? And so we talked about how there's a cost to the production of the money, which if that cost is quite high, it will limit the supply, right? So the money will actually be more scarce if it's expensive or difficult or hard to produce. And that's where we get the term hard money, right? So it's hard to produce. So with digital monies, now all of a sudden we have scarcity on a whole new level, Mark. It's so scarce, in fact. I don't even know if I have any in my bank.
Yeah, no kidding.
But now, how do they produce it, right? Scarcity is tied to the production of money, and how is the digital money that we use today produced? It's just
Well, why does it have to be scarce? How about that? Right? Because I mean, I think a lot of people would argue that the ability to have abundant money
is great.
is great because then we can just print it at will, and when we need money somewhere, if the government needs to send me money,
Which they do.
do they? I don't know if they do, but if they need to
Think
send
that's the
somebody
mentality.
money targeted in a certain way, they can send that like right away, and they don't have to
To go get the money.
wait.
first.
Yeah, they don't have to go get it. They don't have to wait for anything. They can just send it if they need to do disaster relief checks or increase welfare benefits or whatever. They can do that with no friction. That's good, isn't it, Brent?
Well,
Look,
no.
I'm taking the government side here. Okay,
Hey, you're doing a pretty good job.
thank you.
Continue.
And furthermore,
I'm out of arguments. Well, so what do I always keep saying? That camera's done. Money is the store of the value of your time, right? And And so if you have, if you're holding something, which is money, to store the value of your time,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden, let's say we double the amount of money in the system, or we increase the supply of money dramatically, that means that the percentage that I own all of a sudden gets cut in half, right?
Yeah.
So, which basically means that the value of my time gets cut in half, or the value that I'm trying to store into the future for future consumption or for emergencies or whatever the case may be is dramatically reduced. And so that's why it's important to have money that's scarce, or at least predictably has some scarcity to it, right? Like with gold, we have a historical record of thousands of years of, while it's not perfectly scarce in the sense that it like there is no more gold ever going to be produced and this is all the gold we have and like therefore it's scarce, it is kind of predictable that every year there's only going to be 1 or 2%, like 1.8 or 2% inflation of the money supply.
Yeah.
So I can accept that because I know that historically speaking, like we've had all these advances in technology and they've only been able to come up with maybe 2% more gold every year. So I'm comfortable storing my value in that because I know that in the future, we can reasonably suspect that there's not going to be this massive influx of money supply.
So as the government, I'll say to you, like,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. Don't store your money.
Just spend it.
Spend it.
And
Like,
what
why are you
what
saving-
advantage is that?
Why are you hoarding all this money? Just spend it, and then you don't have to worry about
See,
whether or not the value goes up or down because you just go get more.
and where do you get more?
Well, you work.
Yeah. But so the thing is when money supply goes up and I were to, let's say I worked 10 years ago and I saved my money and now all of a sudden there's twice as much money. So my value from 10 years ago is cut in half. Okay. First of all, is that fair? But second of all, now if I go work today, I'm doing the same work. So I'm producing the same value to the economy essentially, but I'm getting paid in currency units that are half as valuable.
Yeah.
So that doesn't sound very good.
Well, tell you what we'll do, Brent. We're going to supplement your income. I'm going to give you some credits. Okay. If you act a certain way, or if you do, like if you just be a good citizen,
Yeah.
we're going to give you some good credits.
Can
we're
I
gonna
drink
give you-
alcohol?
Yeah.
In
Yeah, why
moderation.
not? Yeah, I guess. But no, maybe we'll even do like a universal basic income
Yeah.
because we understand that life is.
Will you take
life
care
is
of
tougher.
my kids for me too
Yeah,
and educate them?
we will.
And give me free health care?
I will give you $10 a day daycare
Yeah.
so that you don't have to deal with the burden of raising children beyond a certain age, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, then they can go into the school system after that. So you really don't have to deal with them. You don't have to educate them.
Yeah. That
We're
sounds
going to give you
great.
some kind of, like a baby bonus and amount of money to help
You'll give me
with the
cheap.
costs of them.
Will you give me cheap food alternatives?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Because you can
maybe
print
we'll
the-
introduce
'cause
credits
you can print
for
the
you.
money as the government.
Yes, we can give you, like the government could solve all these problems for you, right? We'll give you credits directed at certain things so that, so that you don't have to worry about
can
this,
live the
this
life I want.
inflation thing that everybody keeps screaming about, right? Like that's not a problem as long as we can have the authority to make these credits.
So I should
and
just
to-
give all my authority and responsibility over to you.
Yes, you should, Brent. It's not. It's not authority. Don't think of it as authority.
Right. Think of
Right?
it as a loving arm and embrace.
Exactly, the all-encompassing arms of the state. We will take care of you.
Right. From cradle to grave.
Absolutely, yes. We'll even work in something about a cemetery, and it'll be to the grave.
So there you go, folks. Money does not have to be scarce because that's not important.
But like seriously, these are some of the arguments, right? The universal basic income. I mean, I think this is sort of the premise of that argument is that like, yeah, things are kind of tough.
Yeah.
But instead of rethinking about how, like looking at how we think about money and how we're spending our money and what we're doing with
Yeah.
all this, we're just going to print some more,
Yeah.
right? Like maybe the issue is we're printing too much money, but really that's not the issue.
Yeah.
We just need to print some more,
Yeah.
right? And like you could see, I don't know if anybody caught this, but I was I was being facetious, right? Playing devil's advocate, but this is sort of the idea behind a lot of government thinking, is that we'll create more and more dependence on the citizens, of the citizens on the government.
Yeah.
Right? Because inflation is in fact stealing our wealth.
Yeah.
And we're de-incentivizing saving, de-incentivizing really good behavior.
Yeah.
Right? Long-term thinking. We're going to decentivize that in terms of short-term thinking and reliance on the government.
Yeah.
For everything.
Okay, I have a quote that kind of relates to this from Safety and Moose. So each expansion of government credit and spending develops a group dependent on it, which uses its political influence to perpetuate the spending and makes the job of any politician wanting to reverse it very difficult.
Yeah, that's very true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because once you fund a
Well,
group,
because if you gave the example of universal basic income, right? So if I'm going to give everybody or a select group, or maybe I'm giving everybody universal basic income, but I'm giving some people more or some people less, depending on your identity, politics, or whatever. That will, like, obviously, once you start getting those checks in the mail, you're going to maybe adjust your budget. Right? Maybe you're going to find a new place to live or different food to eat. Or
maybe your job, right? Maybe you don't work as much.
Yeah. So now what you do is, in effect, you become dependent on that. And that's not good for you.
Why not?
Well, it's good for the person whom you're dependent upon.
But it's nice of them. What's wrong with that? They're helping you out. That would be... Like, why can't you just accept some help, right? It sounds to me like you're one of those types who doesn't trust the government.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
Are you a redneck, Brent?
Not. Yeah, maybe I'm a city redneck. Well, with scarcity, which was the property that we were kind of just talking about, if your money is not scarce, how do I say this? So yeah, if your money is perfectly scarce, then you know what percentage of the money supply you own, and therefore you know what value you have, and you're storing into the future. The minute you start to inflate that, like I think that would be a fair system, right? To say, like, the money supply is scarce, and therefore the work that I've done and been paid in money will always be there for me if I want to buy goods or services.
So like, if you used gold as that example,
Yeah.
for which it was for a long time.
Yeah, we gave the example of a suit, like a nicely tailored suit. So if I worked like 300 years ago and I stored my money or my time in that, so I've contributed X number of value to the economy, and it's basically about the same as a nicely tailored suit. And I stored that in money. So because we're talking about, like, what would make for perfect money, if you had the properties of scarcity, that would lead to basically translate to the value of my time that I've expended in the past carries forward to today, one for one, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no debasement, there's no inflation of the money supply, which dilutes the value of my savings, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, in the case of gold, there is that inflation.
Yeah.
But that's actually being used. Like, I think there's a pretty good harmony there, right? That because technology improves so we can get gold more easily. Population is also increasing, so that there is more requirement for gold for industrial and maybe jewelry, but for other uses. So there is an inflation, but it's actually it doesn't debase the value because there's increasing demand for that. So, and I would imagine that the demand for gold has also increased at around 2%, right? If you look at it like a long-term graph, you'll see it's a little bit bumpy, right? It's not a perfect straight line, but like that's to be expected. but the demand increases sort of in sync with the ability to produce it, which makes sense because if there's more demand, we're going to produce more. Like I'm
Yeah.
going to, like, then the price goes up and I'm going to find a new technology or do more work to find more. And then so over the longer period, it's a similar trend line. I just wanted to point that out. Right,
Yeah.
there is actually inflation in gold as well, but that's not necessarily a bad thing as long as there's the corresponding increase in demand.
Yeah. See, with universal basic income, I feel like I might vote for that. Oh, I don't know. Like, no, maybe
I make a
it's
pretty
not
good argument, Brent.
Well, maybe it's not a morally acceptable position, but at the same time, like, the quicker the system decays, maybe the better.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, like let's all.
Yeah, if you guys think this is good, let's vote for it and see what happens and see how quickly it falls into nothing, right? And yeah,
There might be a case where I would be
But-
in favor of that.
yeah. If you create money, like if the government creates or prints money, they're not actually creating value, and that's the difficult part, right? That people don't see when they see I'm going to get universal basic income, I'm going to get a paycheck from the government for free. That money was created out of nothing. And human beings don't have the ability to say, let there be money, because they're not gods. So they cannot create value, right? Like they're not expending, the government's not expending anything to create this value and giving
Yeah.
it to people, right? They're just saying it exists and here you go. And that, like, what people don't realize is they might get a paycheck, but the first person to get their paycheck is going to be at an advantage to everyone else. And the first person to spend that paycheck is going to get an advantage, because by the time the last person goes to spend his universal basic income, ribeyes are going to be $150 a piece, right? Like,
Well, and that's people will tout UBI as the solution to affordability problems.
Yeah.
When the affordability problem is caused by money printing, by an increase in the money, by inflation, and all you're going to do with UBI is add, like, you're just
Fuel.
going to make the problem
fuel
worse.
to the fire.
Yeah.
Okay,
so I
we-
will listen. Listen, Brent.
Okay.
I want to go on a tangent for a second. Right. The one argument I might make for a UBI is something like where you have a sovereign wealth fund based on like a natural resource. So you think of Norway, right? They have
Yeah.
a huge sovereign wealth fund. I think Alaska does it as well, right? Based on oil extraction. So
there is value in the ground.
the government in this, I mean, it's not the government, but there is value being created, right? There's a oil that's being extracted.
Yeah.
Companies are paying, they're paying taxes on this, or they're sharing the profits in a lot of these cases, but it's still worth it for these companies to do it. So now you've got, like, Alaskans get a check every year, right? It's not like huge, but it's something.
Because there's natural resources that are actually valuable being extracted, and
Yeah.
everybody participates in
And
that.
rather than the government just keeping that money and doing
Doesn't
who knows
Canada
what with
have
it.
oil too?
Why you got to poke the bear, Brent? Like, why you got to do that?
Where's our oil? Come on. I need my, what is it, $10 a month or?
Well,
oil tax?
I think Alberta has something similar, right? But I don't know that much about it, so I don't
Okay,
want to go off
all right,
on that. But they
But your comment is that any issuance of money from the government that hands out to everybody, like universal basic income, should be rooted on real value.
be based on something.
Yeah. And not just fiat money. Like, we are going to print this and give it to everybody, and that will solve the problem. It's like that may have temporary effects on, it may make people not want to work as much. It might make people happier, right? Like, you've seen these studies come out of where, I think was it Denmark or Finland or something?
Yeah.
Tried this. And it's like, 80% of the people said they were happier. It's like, well, yeah, because they were the recipients of all the money, and the people around them didn't get anything. And of course they're going to be like, hey, right? So therefore it works.
Oh,
But yeah,
man.
that's a short-term thing, because look at them now, right? Like, I don't know. Let's fast forward 20 years.
Yeah.
How is that going to look? So what are prices going to be, right? Anyways, the whole point of this episode was to gloss over these properties and then jump quickly into the actual substance of what we want to talk about, which is some of the consequences of maybe unsound versus sound money, or like perfect money in our society.
Well, I think we may have to save that substance for the next episode, Brent.
Okay,
Yeah?
let's do that.
Okay, excellent. Well, thanks for listening to this episode, folks. And until next time,
Steward your wealth wisely. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Two Stewards Show. If you like my voice better, click subscribe.
and if you like my voice better, click share.
If you like both, give us a 5-star rating.
To interact with the show, feel free to reach out at hello@twostewards.ca.
We will see you in the next episode. In the meantime, steward your wealth wisely.